Well, welcome back, stranger.
Hi.
You didn't come back the way you wanted to, but you know.
Came back with a little extra, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
No, just inconvenience of staying home for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Since we haven't started yet, I sent the management letter to Andrea. She has that. She's going to get Commissioner Rippon to sign it. We also need your signature. I didn't get an agenda out today because it was kind of last minute, but I just jotted down a few things I thought we ought to talk about. First of all, the department head meeting, we had talked about that, and she had put it on the agenda. I got a phone call this morning from Commissioner Rippon saying that Thursday they are going to have a Board of Health meeting because of the governor's order, and he thinks it is going to be a long one and a lot of people there to talk. So probably is not going to be something we want all the department heads to wait on. So I think he's going to take that off. I still think it's something we need to get them moving on and thinking about. So I thought we could talk it through. I was thinking maybe we do a Zoom meeting on Thursday afternoon, and maybe we just have it the Spark committee and the department heads, so we don't have the commissioners on there that we have to do all the, I don't know. That was just a thought that I had.
I agree. I think that we need to get it started sooner than later. And so if we can have a Zoom meeting with the department heads without the commissioners involved at this stage, because especially if budget hearings are starting next week.
Yeah, they're starting Monday, and they're all day Monday. So we really can't do much Monday.
Yeah, and I agree that if they do a Board of Health meeting on Thursday, it's going to probably last a while.
Yeah, I think it's going to be real contentious on both sides.
Yeah.
So any other comments? What do the rest of you think? Don't everybody speak at once? And the reason I thought of a Zoom meeting, Pat, I was talking to him earlier, and he mentioned something about sending an email out. But I really think if there's an exchange of ideas, I think it might be helpful to get them thinking a little more than just sending out an email. I think if we can have a discussion, I think that could be helpful.
I also think it could be overwhelming, not quite understanding what it is that we're asking for or explaining to them what to, and so I think verbal communication would be good as well.
Cindy or Pat, your box keeps lighting up. Did you have something to say?
No, my box just keeps lighting up. I have no idea. It just just to let you know that I'm here.
Okay.
I agree. So I think it's a good idea to get as many of the department heads together as we can on Thursday.
Does the box keep lighting up for Pat Oblander?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it just does that if we're on speaker. It's picking up background noise, and so the Zoom conference thinks we're talking. Betty, did you want me to check down your office and make sure that Commissioner Rippon isn't floating around down there trying to figure out a way to get on? I'm in my office.
No, Andrea's on.
Yeah, I'm in Betty's office.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Is on, and he hasn't shown up yet, so he may have other things going on. Okay, well then I'll try to schedule something for a department head Zoom meeting Thursday. Do we want to, what kind of time? I don't have any idea how long that department of health meeting might want to go. Should we go for like 2 o'clock? Oh, Joni, you're muted.
Darn thing. The one this last Thursday went till what, like 12 or 12:30, actually even later than that, because we had a 1 o'clock meeting afterwards that we barely made it to. So I would assume that we at least 2, if not 2:30 or 3.
What would be wrong? What would be wrong with having a department head meeting tomorrow before the commission meeting, and then if we had anything to communicate to the commissioners, we could, Betty could go up at, or, I mean, not just Betty, somebody could go up at administrative communications and have the conversation. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there.
I think it's a good idea. The only negative is if they don't have, it gives them it's tomorrow, so it doesn't give them much time. But I think as Joni said earlier, the sooner the better.
I'm not opposed to doing it tomorrow either. I mean, I think either way. And I will be the attorney at the commission meeting on Thursday as well. So if anything comes up, I can always stand up to speak as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I will be there or not. I had to go have a COVID test today. I hope to give the results tomorrow. If I don't get the results tomorrow, well, I won't be there. We'll just see. So if I'm not there, Joni, you can handle it.
Well, and also, I know we had, said we wanted the department heads to have, obviously an idea of what they're going to be wanting to spend their money on, or what their expenses were, stuff. But we still have to have a starting point from them. And I think having this preliminary meeting, getting as many of them in as we can tomorrow might be a way to get their feet wet. And, like I said, they're going to be easy departments like mine that are, they're relatively easy, but give them, and then pull another one out of our hats Monday afternoon, because the meetings start Monday? Yeah,
they start Monday and they're all day long, the budget hearings. But this will kind of go into, let me kind of go into our next category, because that might kind of throw something into it too. We met with 2 different consultants, our little subcommittee did, and we have one that we are ready to recommend to our Spark committee. It is the Witt O'Brien Company. They are the ones that are doing Sedgwick County, Riley County, and they talk like maybe several others. They're doing some work with Johnson County, even though Johnson County's RFP isn't supposed to be, their full-blown RFP is July 6th. But Joni, they said something about they're working some with Johnson County now, but they have everything already set up. It's all ready to go. The other company, I think, could do the same work, but they don't have it set up. This company is ready to go. There's several things I really liked about them. One thing was that they will meet with the departments and with our taxing authorities too, electronically, but and talk with them about things that would be covered, things that aren't covered, how they might think of things out in the future that they could use it for. And they will also have what they called department head meetings that they would kind of like group together into similar departments and have a Zoom meeting with them and talk about the things that they might be able to think about that they could, and some of these could be big projects that maybe would be, covered under the telework or under the technology part or something like that. And so I think if we can get the department started thinking, and then if this consultant would follow that up with these meetings that they have, I think that might be a really good progression. So.
Yeah, I agree. They would be able to hit the ground running, literally. They showed us spreadsheets that they were Excel spreadsheets that already had like all of these categories of expenses that could be considered, and then like check marks on the side to like what you need to look for and whether or not it would be approved or disapproved or could qualify. I guess they can't say one or the other, but like Betty said, they have a bunch of people working on this on a daily basis. He said that they're doing boot camps on the weekends, getting everybody caught up. They already have a direct line into the state Spark committee. And so they're communicating with the state Spark committee already. And also the recovery office as well. And so whereas Wolpert was like very communicative and I think also could handle the job, they didn't have those connections already. And unfortunately for them, Wood O'Brien's has a one-up because they've been working with Sedgwick County, who has known about all of this money and what they needed to do for much longer than the rest of us. But it gives them such an advantage. And the cost of it was not any more based on the fact that we had more money than what, say, for instance, Riley County had. So it was, in their agreement, it said no more than $150,000, I believe was the number.
Yeah,
and they
said
said that
up to 150,000.
And I guess the way that it's set out is that they would have like multiple subcategories of things that we might want assistance with, and then we can just go through and pick in that laundry list of what we feel would be necessary. And if there's items that we just don't think apply for us, then we don't need to select that subcategory. However, later as we're working along things, if all of a sudden something pops up, then we could go back through and select something additional, and they would work with us.
And although it says up to 150,000, they charge based on the hours, but they felt like 150,000 would cover it all.
Right.
So, unless there's something else additional that we want them to do. Another thing that I really liked about this consultant was that they have a matrix that shows all the different grants, not only this coronavirus relief fund, but also the FEMA expenses, FEMA assistance, whatever that's called, the FEMA reimbursements, the DOJ grants. So we can really look at where we want to pay different things out of and really get the best bang for our buck, basically, that we can pick and choose exactly what makes sense to pay out of which grant. So I think that is really beneficial for the county too. And they also already have a template set up for the taxing authorities, that what they would fill out to send us. They already have those templates set up. They have a template set up that if it's something in a real gray area, it's a real broad category and it might be kind of a gray area, they have a template set up that you can go through and basically, and they will help us with, the department with this if they need the help, but basically you're documenting why you think it is an eligible expense. So if it ever came back to us as, why was this, then we would have this all documented out, why it is an eligible expense. So
and he made a good point about that too, because he was like, you may look at it today and say, oh, this definitely has to be an eligible expense, but then in 6 months when we are justifying our expenses, you may look back on it and be like, why was this ever justifiable? And so that's why they have this form letter that you go in and you select language that says exactly why it is that you thought that it was an eligible expense at the time that you tried to incorporate it.
And that's not for every little small thing, a little purchase of masks, that's not going to be necessary. But these are for big projects that may be AV equipment for the courts, or something like that, that is a larger a larger project, that then we have that documented.
Well, how fast can we get this on the agenda, Joni or whomever, to because I based on your estimation, and let me take full and absolute credit for appointing the right committee. I think you did a bang-up job, folks. Erin's not there to take the credit apparently, but you did a wonderful job. How fast can we get this on Monday's agenda?
I was going to ask if we could ask them to revise Thursday's agenda and get it on it.
Sounds good to me.
Joni, could you work through the contract and get it on for, I don't know how long it would take you to work through that contract.
What is today, Tuesday?
Mm-hmm.
I can work on it probably tomorrow. I don't know that I would be able to work on it today, but I can work on it.
So then that's the case, we probably have to put it on Monday.
I would say let's put it on Monday's agenda if we can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, especially at the dollar amount, they're gonna, they don't want it to they want to make sure it has plenty of
Well, and
airtime.
I want to make sure that you have, that Joni's had time to go through the whole thing and make sure she's.
Well, and we'll have to do, a memo and go through the contract, and I want to be able to touch base again with their company before doing it as well. So I just think that maybe it'd be better just to wait until Monday to get it on.
That's fine.
What do we have on for tomorrow or on Thursday? You as the point of contact.
Just appointing me as the point of contact.
Okay.
Hey, Betty, can I just ask a quick question while I'm taking notes?
Yes.
You guys have brought up having several meetings, one Thursday, and then you thought about tomorrow. And
Right.
Did you guys settle on that? Because I have to make sure these credentials are open.
Okay,
Also, if you're not talking, can you please mute your mic? It's incredibly difficult to hear on the recording. Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to the department head meeting. I think where we left off was that we were going to schedule a Zoom department head meeting on Wednesday. I will make a motion for that. Do I have a second?
Cindy, second.
When is this meeting?
At 2 o'clock on Wednesday, the 1st. I'm sorry, did I get a second?
I seconded
got
it, Joni, or Cindy Beck did as well. So either one.
Both people.
The credentials are open at 2, so yes, a meeting can happen then.
Okay, so okay, everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay, now let's go on to the consultant. We are the committee, the subcommittee is recommending that we that we go into negotiations or that we have Joni work through the contract for this consultant and put it on the agenda. Do I have a motion for that? Since I'm on the committee, that probably wouldn't be a good idea for me to make the motion.
So moved, Cindy Beck.
Second, Larry Moore.
Okay. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, and that will be put on Monday's agenda, the 6th, I believe it is.
Can I ask a quick question about that?
Sure.
Are you planning on, is the contract supposed to be for the entire duration, including the reports, or just?
It is for 6 months.
Okay.
But then we could extend that if we need to. So, but yeah, the contract, as I read it, it is for 6 months. So through the end of the year. And I know the last report isn't due till February 1st, but I think by that time we would probably kind of have the process down. Okay.
Actually, Betty, if you go 6 months, doesn't that take you through January?
Well, July 1 through the end of the year, right?
Yeah, you're right. My math is not good today. I think I'm going to go home.
Okay, the other thing that I thought we ought to discuss is the website. I know that, Pat's people at my request put our agenda that I made up an agenda for the last meeting. So, that resolution says that we are supposed to make all of those public. So Asim put that out on the audit finance website, but I think we need to talk about, we're going to have to make a link to all of the meetings, the recordings, that I assume those would be a link to YouTube or wherever Pat's people want them put. So we'll have to have a link to them. We'll have to have any meeting agendas that we do come up with. where should we put that? I mean, right now he put it under audit finance, but should we put it on the commission page? Should we put the link there? Should we put a banner on the front of our website that, you know, has the banner that goes from one thing to another? I'd like to.
Betty, I would propose that we do that we put it on the front page as one of the slides that go across, and that can pop up a link to where these items are stored. That seems to me like the best place to put something like that, because it's going to be, it needs to be right up front and center for people to be able to find it.
I agree. Now, where would it be stored? If that's the banner, will take you to a link, but does it need to be stored on some other page?
We can store it on archive.org or YouTube, the same way that we're doing the commission meetings. Sky, are you archiving this up anywhere already that we could just have a link point to, or are you just archiving them locally for now?
Yeah, they're just going to my computer.
Okay, so all we'd need to do is get the recordings from you and get them posted up where we normally put them.
Yep.
Can we
And I think that's what we'll do.
Can we have a separate web page for this topic? Because I feel like soon, if we should have a page up that details what these monies are, where they're coming from, how we got the funds or how we're getting the funds, and then maybe have some of the links that we've been provided by the Spark Committee to, you know, information, so that our taxing agencies or our taxing authorities all have a place to go to kind of look for detailed information. I know we've talked a little bit about having a website at some point and had kind of put that on hold, but even if we don't have a fillable application yet at this stage, does anybody else think that we need to start getting a bunch of this information on the website?
We could also then put the federal guidance out there that we have, that the state has available. We could put those on there too.
I think it would be less.
Yeah, there's no reason we can't go ahead and set that up.
Yeah, I think it would be less confusing, because that way you won't have any department information mixing in.
Well, also, you can't have too much information available. It will save, 100 or so phone calls to our offices, I guarantee you, because once you put up who's on the committee, and you have no choice but, all they have to do is go back to look at the commission agenda anyway to see who's on the committee.
Okay, I'll go ahead and get the development crew started on getting a dedicated web page set up for this effort. What would you guys like it to be defined as being? Like instead of a department name, should we call it the Shawnee County CARES page, or?
Well, it's technically this money, it's kind of confusing, but technically this money, it comes from the CARES Act, but it's just one piece of the CARES Act. There's a lot of other pieces and that's this money is technically the Coronavirus Relief Fund.
Yeah, I would say call it the CRF, or the Coronavirus Relief Fund, CRF.
I agree.
All right, that's what it'll be, Coronavirus Relief Fund information page or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
On that note,
we'll go ahead and get that.
The recordings that I'm doing are too big to send in a file form. So I can put them on a flash drive, which is what we've been doing at EM, and get them to whoever they need to go to. But something to consider, since you guys are doing a lot more meetings right now and they seem to be at different times, the credentials we're under right now are emergency management credentials. So we have to make sure that we don't have other meetings either with Nelson or myself or the health department with all the stuff that's going on. So I don't know if you guys have the ability to have credentials that are specifically for this group, or if you guys could set a time and a day or whatever, so that way you guys aren't trying to battle out with other groups for these.
Well, and I think, Sky, I think we talked about this, I think in the last meeting, is that we do hope to come up with like a weekly meeting that would always be the same. It's just right now, things are moving, we're trying to get things moving so quickly that we just haven't really felt like we had the option of doing that. But I think we do want to set a set weekly meeting, or at least weekly initially. Maybe later it'll be able to go, for further.
And that's totally fine. I just want to make sure that there's an open space for you guys on these credentials.
Well, and we'll just have to check with you. If you're on these meetings, we'll just have to make sure that it fits with you. Now the Wednesday, tomorrow at 2:00, you said that worked?
Yes. And you guys were talking about a Thursday meeting as well. Do you know what time you wanted that to be?
No, that was going to be in place of the Wednesday one. We changed it to Wednesday.
I will take that out of the notes.
Yeah, that was just a suggestion, but we changed it to Wednesday. Okay, anything else anyone else has thought of that we need to discuss? Those were just the things that I had jotted down.
Go ahead.
I did a question. Would you, would Andrea or Jennifer be sending it, because they send out a quick note to the department heads to say they know that they're going to be asked to, come up with some expenses and current expenses and projected expenses, but give them that. I know the ones that already have it or have been spending the money know about it, but just to let them know about tomorrow's meeting.
Yeah, I was going to put something together, just hear from home, because I kind of know where the links are to get that guidance information more than they do. So.
Okay. I couldn't want to, I keep saying Betty. I don't really need to do that.
I'll just push other things off to them.
And, the rest of us are here for you too if you need it. Right, Larry Ma?
He's muted and he hasn't changed it.
Oh, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
In good hands.
Okay, yeah, I will get that sent out so that they are aware of that. And then Sky, after I send my email, you'll have all the contact information for that.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, is there anything else anyone can think of that we need to discuss? Well, if not, then I guess we are done for today.
Are we gonna, so we'll do the
department. Oh, wait, we need to pick a next meeting, don't we?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, because we also need to finalize the resolution before the 13th. And so I will work on both the contract and the resolution. But we do need to get that prepared to go to the commissioners as well.
Yes, and we kind of walked through that whole resolution. We did that first day. Is there anybody that needs to go through that anymore before it goes to the commission?
Not the resolution, but I do have a question about Thursdays when you're appointed. Is this something, there's nothing in this. Once you're appointed, we can just send it off to the state and to the SPARK committee or to whomever, and it's done. Is that right, Joni?
I was going to ask you about that, Cindy, because I thought on that's the webinar that they had on Friday, I thought it said that they were going to be sending an email to the county clerks to get about this primary point of contact. So did you?
You're right about that. Have not received anything. Have not received anything at all. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Well, yeah, because I thought that's what they said, it would go to you.
And that was my question. So I'm assuming that we're just going to go on the premise that they have not gotten around to getting these memos out, because all these 103 counties have to have this done by Monday. Well, hey, whatever. So
I think we want to go ahead, even though you haven't gotten the form or whatever, I think we want to go ahead and get it on the agenda and get it approved. So, if nothing else, you can send them an email.
Right. I agree. But
yeah,
it's all for tomorrow, on Thursday's agenda?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so that's, yeah, if they don't have a form or something to me by then, we'll just send them what the approval for the commission. That'll be good.
Yeah, and I think that needs to come from your office, Cindy, because they specifically mentioned the county clerk.
Did anybody else get the email from Kim Qualls rounding up the meeting? Okay, because I didn't know if that, because it has the link to the webinar, the resources and guidance, the toolkit.
Yeah, I think we probably all got that are on KAC's list.
And then,
Right.
but they haven't sent the form that we need to fill out for the point of contact, is what you're saying, Cindy?
Is it on there? Is it in that?
I didn't see it, but.
I didn't see it either. I looked and I didn't see it on there. It's
And
not
I
in the toolkit and it's not in the resources.
And I just got through updating just within the last, well, probably 5 days. I just got through updating for Kim email contact list for email addresses for all of Shawnee County department heads and such like. So and took off. So because I kept, you know, they didn't have it correct, and she sent an email out and asking for that. So if somebody starts getting stuff from KAC that they haven't gotten for, that's why.
Good, good. Glad that's updated.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so next meeting, when do we want to meet? You talked, Joni, we talked about the resolution. Does the committee need to, is there anything you feel like the committee needs to vote on before you put something on?
Well, I would prefer that everybody look at it and see it with all of the blanks filled in. I don't know that we need to vote on it because we have to send it. That's not a choice. So I would say that we already know that we want to put it on Monday. Well, no, that's, I guess not. We don't have to put it on Monday. I would just say that once I get it updated, I would prefer that everybody see it, which I could just email it to everybody so that you all can review. So we wouldn't have to necessarily have a meeting before then.
Okay, I think that would be good if you just email it to us all. Because we really have walked through it all. It's just you putting in the information. Okay, well, so let's see, this is Tuesday. We had our, so when would you think we ought to, let's see, if we are going to have our contract on for Monday, is that right? Okay. I don't know if there will be a lot for us to discuss before that, will there?
I don't think so. I think that even just if we were to go back on Tuesday instead of Monday for our next meeting, because then we could have possibly give the department heads a chance to, you know, go over the information we're going to be talking to them about tomorrow. That'll give them a little extra time, and maybe they could have some data to us by that if we gave them one extra day, like Monday.
Okay. Monday I have budget hearings until 3 o'clock. But
what about Tuesday?
Tuesday, I have them from 9 until I have a doctor's appointment at 2:40. But that doesn't mean I necessarily have to be on the meeting. I mean, someone else can lead it.
And what about Wednesday?
Wednesday is till 2.
Well, one question, Betty, if you would, when you send your email out to department heads, could you ask them to include maybe Jim and Joni in their response if they have questions or whatever, just so it's not all on your, on your shoulders. I think they could, they could get more questions answered than if they, went to Larry, me, or Aaron at this point in time. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I like the idea that it's not just me. Because if it's just me, probably a lot of it will get pushed to Jennifer.
Well, and also it's just the idea that you've been on the inside, and with this group coming in with O'Brien, Joni would there'd be other people would have answers possibly for the department heads if they have any. They may not have any either.
Right. Okay, well, as far as a meeting, if you, I mean, I'm not opposed to, you know what? I'm looking at the department head meetings for Tuesday. And Sky, you make your comments on here too when it's available. But at 1 o'clock, I have TARC, and then it's health access, and then it's safe streets. So I could probably do a 1 o'clock on Tuesday. Would that work for everybody? And Sky, does that work?
It works for Cindy.
The credentials are open, yeah.
I'm available Tuesday at 1.
Okay, then I just won't go to that. TARC is one I don't really have to be at. So I don't think that's an issue on that one. So let's just
Jennifer?
set it. What?
Jennifer could go to that one. Jennifer,
Yes,
she would go.
Well, no, she has to be home for 2 weeks.
Oh, never mind. Andrea could go to that one.
That's right. Andrea could go.
I would, but I'm on vacation next week.
What?
I know, they let me out once in a while.
You have a lenient boss, let me tell you.
Well, that was set way back before all this too.
Hey, Betty,
Okay.
that Tuesday meeting at 1, is it just this Spark group or will it also include department heads?
No, that would just be the Spark committee.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that right? That was my understanding. We would just be our Spark committee.
Yes.
I do have one last question about this money coming in. I noticed in all the documentation, it says to make sure that your bank is aware. Do we need to do anything with UMB?
Well, we still haven't gotten information about whether it has to be a separate account or not. In talking with the consultants yesterday, they thought it needed to be a separate bank account that it went into. And I said, well, I didn't get that impression. I knew we were going to set up a separate fund, but they were almost recommending that it be a separate account.
Then we do have a lot to do.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't be a whole lot to set up another bank account, but we have to get it done by the 15th.
I think his concern was that because of the way that they talked about how they would automatically deposit it, but then they're also going to automatically withdraw it. And so
Yes.
if it's into another account, how that might affect our other funds if.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be in another account. It would just be accounted for in a fund. But we also have not heard any guidance on what we have to do about interest. If it was in a separate account, then that would make that easier. If we have to allocate interest to it or anything like that, it would make that easier.
Yeah, Betty.
That's a good idea.
Betty,
Yes.
we'll need to give Tammy a heads up so we'll have plenty of collateral that's
Yes. Oh,
associated
that's
with it.
right. Thank you for mentioning that. I hadn't even thought of that. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, just give her a heads up and she can call the bank and we'll arrange for that
Yeah.
when we know it's coming.
Yeah, it's supposed to come July 15th. So as long as we get our resolution in by July 13th, we're supposed to get the money on July 15th. So yeah. Well, Larry, you're the treasurer. What do you think? Would you prefer a separate account, or would you prefer just to keep it in our operating account, but with a separate, it'll have a separate fund regardless if it's a separate account or not?
My preference is that we keep one account. Having lots of accounts just gets confusing. We do that all the time. We transfer money between us and the state constantly. So if we have, a different category for it, that's fine, but I wouldn't set up a separate bank account if at all possible. That's just, it gets confusing, it's hard to track.
Well, and that was how we were originally, really planning on, and hadn't really thought about anything separate until these consultants talked about a separate account, and I hadn't really even thought about that or considered that, because I do want us to have a separate fund, so it's all accounted for separately. But yeah, that was kind of surprised me when they mentioned that.
Betty,
we handle hundreds of millions of dollars every year with the state transferring money back and forth. And, while this is a different pot of money and accounted for a little bit different, I just don't see why it needs to have a totally separate account unless they tell us to do it.
Betty, my question is, what the sheriff and the jail, do they have actual separate accounts, or do they just actual separate bank account, or do they have just a different account inside our bank account?
Well, most of it is within ours. They have a separate account for inmate money, but that's not county money, that's inmate money. So that is set up as a separate account. Is that about all, Jennifer?
There's a couple, according to and they're in our county code. There's a separate account for the special sheriff's account. There's a special account for the flex spending. There's a special account for the inmates, but all of those are set up in our county code. That's what I wasn't sure. If we're going to have to set something up special, do we have to have it included in our county code?
Well, and that would just mean we pass a resolution.
Right.
But the flex money and the inmate money, that's not county money. That is, that's individuals' money. So that makes complete sense to me. Now the sheriff's special, that's what not the diversion,
it's their drug buy money.
The forfeiture, is that the forfeiture money?
It's the drug money, yeah, the special
fees. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Betty, that would be if we're going to use that as our deciding factor, would the COVID funds fall into that same not being county money?
No, I don't think so, because the county is to me, it's much more like the motor vehicle money that we get in and that we distribute back out. It is the responsibility of the county to operate it. I don't know.
In my mind, it's very similar to grant money, isn't it?
Oh, I guess I don't think from what I had read at one point in time that this supposedly is easier than some grants. So I was just playing devil's advocate on that. I totally agree. You don't want to have to go through all the hoops to open another account.
Yeah. Okay. I think as long as we can, we'll just use our operating account. And unless they come up with some guidance, the question has been asked and it hasn't been answered yet. So hopefully they'll come up with guidance on that.
Question for Joni. Worst case scenario, couldn't we, if the money comes in, we get everything, our resolution, everything done, the money's transferred into our account, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, hey, by the way, it has to be a special account. It's just a matter of setting up an account and transferring it, correct?
Right. Yeah, correct. If they tell us something otherwise after the fact, then I'm going to assume that they're going to issue guidance on that issue prior to issuing any funds if they're going to demand that we have a separate account for it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's decided too. We will keep it in one fund unless we get some kind of guidance that says otherwise. Good. Okay. Anything else? Okay. I think that's it till Monday at 1.
Tomorrow at 2.
Oh, well, for the department head meeting, yes. Yes. I was thinking about for the Spark committee meeting.
I'm just, you know, I'm sorry.
No, you're right. You're right. That's our next meeting. I was just thinking of just the committee was all. Okay.
Cindy, I think you've been pent up too long.
You're exactly right. My staff keeps telling me that. Are you not taking some time off pretty soon? Nope. I'll be here before 8 o'clock in the morning, and that's killing them. They're like, oh my God, they at least have 15 or 20 minutes every morning. Now she's there. I wipe this office down every morning, folks. I've been doing this since the 1st of April. My hands are horrible. They're all, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's good. I'm taking care of everybody, making sure we're clean.
Well, good.
We've got some windows down here if you do windows.
No. Y'all good. Be safe. Enjoy your vacation. Joni, looks like you and me and Larry are the only ones that are going to be hanging around for a while here.
No, I'm working. I might be home, but I'm still working. That doesn't change that.
Yeah, you don't get to see Larry's 7,000 people.